Hey everybody, welcome to this week's edition of Family by Design. And today Liz and I are going to talk about a really important topic, and it's really about meeting your spouse's needs. And there's different kinds of needs. There's just the embedded needs that men have and that women have, or I'll say that husbands have and that wives have. Those are really important, but also knowing some of the specific needs that they have, desires that they have. And when you learn to fulfill those needs, and God's given you the grace to do it, and when you learn to do it, you step up to the plate and you begin to invest into your spouse in that way, watch your marriage go to a whole nother level. They're going to feel loved and valued. It's going to make for a much happier life together. So be blessed and encourage you as you hear this word today. All right, so here we are. We're going to talk about some marriage today and meeting your spouse's need. And so the question that I think probably should be in there that we should be asking ourselves is, are we meeting our spouse's need? And really probably should pluralize that and say needs. And Men have needs, husbands have needs, wives have needs.
That's right. And oftentimes we look at this question from a different perspective, and it's the question of, is my spouse meeting my needs? And so
we'll often say my spouse is not meeting my needs, right?
Which causes a disconnect in relationship because you feel disvalued or disrespected or unloved because your needs are being met. You could feel like that you're not cared for or cared about. And again, depending on how you ask this question, especially to yourself, it will cause disconnection or it can cause deeper connection. And the goal in marriage, obviously, is to cause deeper connection. The longer we have been married, the more connected we should be. And that should be the goal with every marriage. The longer you journey with each other, the more connected you should be. But that connection, that knowing each other's needs, that making sure we're caring for one another only comes by being intentional and unselfish.
So I think it is intentionality, but even before that, it's included with that. You have to know what those needs are.
That's right.
So every individual has individual needs, but when it comes to men in general and women in general, men have needs and women have needs, and it's important that we know those, we understand those. And this is, I don't want to get off topic, but this is part of the reason why we have such a problem in marriages today, is that the role of men and women, the gender of men and women is being confused, not in God's eyes. And I would say most Christians are not confused about it, but the world is in a lot of confusion. And it's like, well, how can you talk about the needs of a man if the gender of a man is fluid? I mean, how can you could say, well, my needs have changed because I feel like a woman now. Well, you're not. You're still a man, right? So even that can become clouded, and people could say, well, yeah, I'm a man and I'm a woman, but I really feel I need this or feel I need that. And yeah, there are personal needs, and maybe we can get into some of that. But then there are basic needs that men have and that women have because that is their gender. And a lot of people don't know this. And if you took a poll and said, what is man's number one need? What is a husband's number one need? The vast majority of people would say sex.
That's right.
That's what they would say. And they would be wrong. That's like number 2, number 3 on the list. The number one need that men have from their wife is to be honored and respected. And when I just said that, probably all of the men listening went, you know what, actually, that's right. Yeah, sex is important, but that is not the most important thing. It's to be honored and it's to be respected, which says that there's a lot of problems going on in our society because men are being so degraded through all of the nastiness of Hollywood and just media and stuff. It's like it's like you're lesser for being a man.
Right.
When really we're not lesser or greater for being either one. We just are who God made us to be. So
that's right.
So that's a man's number one need, to be honored, to be respected. And it's not something you can demand. It is something that you should get from your spouse because of how well you treat them. And so this goes hand in hand, because a woman's number one need, this is true for all women, number one need, and it's it's kind of twofold, but it's to be loved.
That's right.
And to be, and I mean in a very intentional, tender way, to be loved, but then to be taken care of. They have a need for security. And that's not a thing of like, wrong kind of security to where they're putting, their security should ultimately come from the Lord, is what I'm trying to say. But there is something there put between man and woman that God put there, that when a man is secure and a man loves his wife properly, it causes her to rise up because she's taken care of in the way that God has designed a man to take care of a woman.
That's right. And then automatically, respect doesn't have to be demanded. It's just automatically given.
It's given. It's an automatic.
And it comes with such ease. So a lot of times, because men aren't feeling respected, then they're having to demand that respect, which ultimately kind of turns into some control and not good things. So it's a real balance of knowing that men's the number one need is respect, honor, but then for men to know that women need loved, to need to be just cared for. And that's tender. And, in a woman's eyes, love is very affectionate, very tender, very nurturing and caring, which sometimes is hard for men to do. But when they do that, then it unlocks women to rise and be part of who they're created to be. Yeah. And then that's when you have this wonderful culture that arises where you have love and respect working hand in hand with ease.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. And this goes back to what Jesus, really the picture of Jesus that Paul represents in Ephesians chapter 5 about husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church, and wives, submit yourself, to your husbands. And so the idea of coming under in that kind of submission, it's a very respectful position. That's in right. Respecting the husband, but it's really the husband's job first to really love their wives right. And so we have these, and then it's chain reaction. It will cause her to respect, and then as she respects and honors him, it will cause him to want to love her. It's a good cycle that we're supposed to enter into. And so but we have to continue to be intentional about it. We have to realize that is a need that God has placed inside of men and women. And when God created Adam was both male and female. That might be, some of you might be going, what are you talking about? I thought he was just a man. No. And this, to take it even a little bit further, God was both male and female, because it says before Eve was created, it says that he created Adam. It was created in the image of God, and he created them. Mm-hmm. So Adam had both aspects of male and female. He was both of those things. And he was created in God's image, which means that God is both male and female. Now, he's referred to in the Bible as he, and that's fine. It has to be one or the other that you refer to him. And I think that God tends to be more masculine in his nature and character, but he also, like the issue, like the woman that lost the coin, and then she went and called all of her friends. The parable of the lost coin, went and called all of her friends and told her friends, I found my lost coin. Well, first of all, the lost coin there is a reflection of God. It used a woman to represent, God the Father finding the lost ones, and also the nature of that thing. Because if a guy found something that he lost, he wouldn't be like, I'm going to go call all my friends. But a woman would do that. Right. Women do that. They communicate with each other like that. And so, anyways, without going too deep down that road, God is both of those things, and Adam was both of those things. But when God separated, he put Adam in a deep sleep, and he pulled Eve from his side. It wasn't just a physical part. It was that. And that's why she was called woman, because Adam said, whoa, man. Anyways, old joke, terrible joke. But whenever God took Eve from Adam, it was the the female attributes, what we know to be the female attributes of a human being, what makes a female. He took those things from Adam. And when he made Eve, she was made independent of the male attributes. And so you're complete in the Lord. You don't have to have somebody to complete you. However, when you get married, there's a need there for the spouse to meet those needs that cannot be met any other way, that God put those things there.
That's
and
right.
so when the two come together, I mean, if you even want to talk about in the sense of procreating, it's impossible. Human beings are not asexual. They don't procreate in and of themselves. It requires the two to come together in order, because the man has the seed and the woman has the egg, and it's impossible to make a baby without those things. Well, when they come together, they're one whole person in every sense of the word, and that includes, emotionally and mentally. There are things that the ways that men think, and we like to categorize people a lot. We do that a lot. Like, you've got this personality and you've got this gifting, and that's fine. But the truth is that there are some very hardcore reality things about men and about women that are vastly different from each other.
That's right.
That are more than just like personality things, and even things like mentally, intuition, things that how women think and do things how men think and do things are vastly different from each other. And when a husband and a wife come together, it is really outside of relationship with the Lord. It is God's first establishment here on this earth of the first kind of covenant. It's the original form of government. It was supposed to be the thing that ruled the whole world before sin came in. It was supposed to be the thing that caused all of the world to be fruitful and to multiply and to be full of the glory of God. There is so much in marriage that's supposed to be there. And whenever that gets disrupted, like we're seeing happen in our world, the whole world gets disrupted. But the original design is for man and woman to come together to meet each other's needs. And when they meet each other's needs, that whole person reveals the glory of God. It's powerful. It's a powerful picture of Christ and the church. But the challenge comes in is that we have to realize, and we're not supposed to be codependent, but we're supposed to be interdependent. So I'm not supposed to be looking for you to always be like this security blanket to where you always make me feel special and honored and whatever. And if you don't, then I'm going to be a tyrannical jerk. Like, that wasn't God's design. And you're not supposed to be this little mamsy-pamsy, wimpy woman who's like, oh, I just need my husband to hold me and just blah, 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 blah. We're supposed to be secure, but we are supposed to lean on each other and cause each other to have the strength that comes from the other one. God designed us to be that way, but we have to understand our needs. So those are some general needs. But then I think we should take the rest of this time and talk about maybe some specific needs that we might have, not just you and I, but might be true of a lot of people, some specific needs. So what are some specific needs? I just gave an hour-long message.
I know. My brain is like
minutes.
trying to I have so much that I can say even to those things. Like, this is why there's such an assault on the marriage.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was the number one, design to show the world a picture of the Lord. And of course, he wants to come. And so I just want to say this before we go on to that, is that oftentimes we'll say, they're not meeting my need. Mm-hmm. They're not meeting my need, so I'm not going to meet their needs. When you have to break that cycle, and you have to be willing to go first, because there is something beautiful and something that can transpire is if you are in a crazy cycle, we like to call it, where you're not feeling loved or you're not feeling respected, and you're staying in that, and then you're not giving the proper things, the proper needs. You're not meeting those needs because your needs aren't being met. Somebody has to be willing to go first. Somebody has to be the one that will say, I'm going to do this first. I'm going to act the way that I was created to act. I'm going to give the way that I was created to give, whether I see it reciprocated or not. And this goes back to doing all things unto the Lord and serving the Lord. Part of that is serving your husband and serving your wife and honoring your husband and loving your wife. That is just part of it. So be the one. if you're in a crazy cycle, to break the cycle and be willing to go first to meet needs.
So with that, what are some specific needs that men and women might have that we should work to fulfill? Give some examples. Give some examples in our marriage of what that looks like.
Like, just like you said, security, needing the notion, the need that you're providing for our family. I think that is, to me, that is something that I want and long for, and you're a good provider. So I love that.
Give some more specific needs.
Okay. Well, you give me a specific, like,
to me, that's general.
Okay.
That's true for every woman.
Like, and just to be cared for. So that's probably too broad also. I don't know.
So
all of a sudden,
let me give you. Then I'll
Okay,
give you. You're
what
like,
is
where are
it?
you going with
I
this,
know,
Ken? So the love languages. We talk about the love
yes.
languages a fair amount.
Okay.
And I think that's an important thing to know how people give and receive love.
Yes.
And so this is something that I'm sure you could take note, and our listeners, I will get some brownie points with our listeners, that you're an acts of service person.
I am.
You know that you are loved and cared for. When I do things around the house, basically is what that equivalates to. That's right. Basically what that.
And it's not anything around the house. It's like specifically like cleaning of the house.
I know, which is probably my least favorite thing to do. I like a clean house. That actually makes me feel respected when I come home and the house is clean. So I also have to live in a reality that you're homeschooling and you have 4 boys. Yeah, and 1 or 2 of them are like tornadoes. But anyways, so I have to not feel unhonored and respected when I come home and the house is a disaster. Instead, be like, you've been dealing with XYZ all day. I'm going to come home and help. And so what I've tried to be more intentional to do is to help you, some with cooking, just do the dishes, even if it's somebody else's job and the younger ones are whatever. It's just happened and there's dishes. Just do it. Clean it up, make the bed. I put sheets on the bed.
You did the other night. I noticed that. I was like,
you didn't even have to ask me.
I didn't.
What a man. What a guy.
That made me feel very loved. And I meant to tell you, thank you. But I had been.
Now's a good time.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you. Because one thing that is important to you is clean sheets. And
I don't like a dirty bed.
Right. Yeah. And I like having the bed made, and it just makes everything.
Dead skin.
Right. Okay, we don't have to go into all the yuck. So part of me respecting you is to make sure the sheets are clean. But we had a busy week, and I had let the laundry get stockpiled. I'm just saying. Yeah. So I was doing a lot of laundry, and I had put it all away. But I was also cooking a whole bunch of meals and taking care of children and just many different things. So I had just put the sheets on the bed, and I was thinking, and it was later, I was thinking, oh my gosh, I need to get in there and get the sheets put on the bed, because by the time we get into the room to go to bed, we're so exhausted. And so I went in there to do that, and you had already done that. So
Captain Kent to the rescue.
Yes. So yes. Thank you very much.
So, okay. So then maybe some other needs here's another example of something that is important to you. Your family, both our families are important to us, but when I was younger, I wasn't very good at like maybe hosting your family, honoring and walking in love and relating to your family. And that was important to you. And it's just because I was younger and I was a knucklehead and didn't know anything. But as we've gotten older, I mean, I could say for the past 5-7 years, I'm very accepting, inviting, and all of that with your family. And that's something else I think that's been a need that you have, that I saw and that I've worked with. So those are more of like specific needs. And so the thing that we want to say about this whole podcast and this topic in particular here is that you first have to be aware of your spouse's needs, and then you have to be intentional to meet those needs. And so if you're not aware of those needs, you can't meet them. And if you are aware and you're not intentional, you're never going to meet them.
That's right.
So it's being aware of them. And the way that you can become aware of them is oftentimes just sit back and watch. What are they doing? What are they talking about? Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks.
That's right.
What's important to them? And then begin to have action towards that. And begin to move that direction. But if you're not hearing it, ask them.
Yeah, I was just going to say, here's lightning fast mind. What if you just ask them, what are some...
Even asking them makes them feel important.
Yes.
Yeah.
What are some needs that you currently have? Because as people grow, as time goes on, the needs change. What I needed when I was younger, specifically isn't the things that I need now. Somewhat they are, but, they can change. I need, and then be unoffendable.
Yeah.
Whenever they're telling you, you're asking them a question. So listen and say, okay, I am going to be diligent then at meeting, and then re-say the needs so that it gets into your ears and into your mind and to your heart that you're going to specifically be meeting those needs that they said. Because sometimes with good intention, we can meet needs that aren't necessarily a priority to them in the moment. And so that could cause some of, especially for women, to feel unloved at a particular moment because that's not a top priority right now. I have 5 other things and I do appreciate that you did this, but I still need these other things.
Right. Yeah. Kind of like when I hung Christmas lights last year.
I appreciated that.
I didn't feel very appreciated.
Why?
I had kids dangling from the roof and all this stuff. And I'm like, this is going to be awesome.
Guess I didn't
She's like,
have
oh, thank you.
A spectacular...
Kind of like when I got you flowers one time. You're like, these are nice. So you have to have... So when you're doing things, you have to do them without having any expectation of how they're going to respond. You do it just because you love them. You love your spouse and you just want to love them. And you hope that one day they'll reciprocate it back to you in a really great way. But no, I'm just kidding. But that is important when you're doing things and meeting needs, that you're doing it for the right motivation, and that is to bless them.
Right.
Period. Whether you get acknowledged in the whole situation or not, that's not the issue. It's about blessing them and loving them.
That's right.
Yep, that's exactly right. So, hallelujah. I think this probably helps some people.
I believe so.
Know your spouse's needs. And then be intentional to meet them. And we say need, it's not like water, but it is like water for your relationship.
That's right.
If you want to see your relationship flourish, then you have to find out what's important to them and go for it.
That's right.
If it's important to them, do it. Make an effort and make the thing happen. One of the things, and I'll just say, and we'll close with this, one of the things that's important to me, so I'm a quality time guy, I love quality time. And part of it is also how I unwind too. Like I just want to sit and just veg out, but I want to do that with the ones that are important to me, primarily you. But so that's one thing for me. But then one of the things that I've always loved to do is go on vacations. That's my most, if I had to narrow it down to my most fun thing. And top of my, outside of being spiritual, although I think family vacations and spousal vacations, getaways, they are important and they are spiritual in the sense that you're investing into your family. Right. That has been something that is very, very important to me. And you've always made that as we've grown, you've made that more of a priority.
Yes.
Not that you don't enjoy it, but you see it, because we have our church blessed us with a trip to Scotland. How awesome is that? We're going to go over there and minister, but then we're going to get to go see some stuff. Yes. And I've watched 40 hours of video on Scotland, and so you've engaged with me on that. And that has felt like a need that you've met with me, not only just engaging and watching the videos, but helping plan and prep for that. It's a good.
And I love that need because I love vacations too. So
high five.
High five. Thank you for listening in on this conversation. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast, give us a 5-star rating, and write a review. Share with your friends and on your socials. For more information about Ward Ministries, check out wardmen.org. If this podcast is encouraging you on your marriage and family, we want to hear about it. Email us at info@wardmen.org and make sure you keep your eye out weekly for the latest podcast on marriage and family.